Hello, everyone. It's Suey here, and I'm going to tell you about a book I just read called The Invisible Life of Addie and LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is a great cover. Not much to it. But there are 7 stars that are like a constellation, which is a very important part of the book. I was thinking about doing more short reviews, and I did put one out since I thought of that. I heard that shorts were going to be like 3 minutes long now, which is kind of a perfect length for me to do a quick review. That seems to not be working yet for my channel. Don't know what's going on there. So anyway, I'm just going to do a long one today because I really loved this one. This would be the 3rd book I've read by this author, I think. And I really, really love her so much. She, I think, is going up the list as one of my favorite authors and probably somebody who I need to catch up with on all her books. She's written a lot that I haven't read. So I love her writing style so much. Like, I read her words and all I can think about is the beautifulness of them and how I wish I could figure out these words just like that for my own stories and books, at least certain genres of them. So dang, I wish I could figure that out. But so good. Okay. This one was real popular a couple of years ago or last year. I don't know. Anyway, it won something. Oh, it's 2020. Oh, it's 2020. So it's longer than I thought that I'm behind on this one. I'm going to tell a little bit about it, and then I will probably talk about it worry-free and have a spoiler warning so I can just talk about it because I feel like a lot of people have read it. Most people have read it. I don't know. Okay, so this story is about a girl. She's living in 1700s, and she is being forced to get married to a dude that already has kids, and she knows she's just going to end up kind of being his slave. And she has these aspirations of sort of seeing the world, or at least doing what she wants to do. And she doesn't really want to get married. And in this time in society, that was what was expected of you. And if you didn't do that, then something was wrong with you. And she has this friend, this old, unmarried old lady, who kind of gives off these witchy vibes. And she has been taught about the old gods through this lady who's praying to the gods that she would be saved from having to get married. And somebody answers her, and it is not the one she wanted to answer. It's not the good guy, it's the bad guy. So she ends up being cursed with immortality, basically. And the problem is that she cannot leave a mark in this world or in society because nobody remembers her. So while they're with her, they're fine, but as soon as they go to sleep, or they walk out the door, or they turn their head and go to the other room and then come back or something, then they come back and they don't know who she is. So that makes for some really interesting situations for her to have to deal with, and how to survive also. And so then we meet her again 300 years later in 2014, and she meets a guy who does remember her. And so she's freaked out, like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? How can this be after 300 years? So that is the premise of the story. It jumps around in time a lot. It goes back. Well, it basically just goes back and forth between her experience from when she was cursed, and then, jumps in time forward and forward and forward to all the different things that she's done and gone through. And then we keep going back to the time in 2014. And then we jump back in time for another storyline a little bit. And anyways, it's jumping all over the place, but it doesn't bother me at all. It's very well marked and you can follow it along and get the gist of everything perfectly fine. So that's the premise. And now I will talk about it a little more freely. Here's your spoiler warning in case you haven't read it and you don't want to know everything that's going to happen. Basically, the dude that cursed her is the devil, or a devil figure, or kind of a grim reaper figure, because he harvests souls. They exchange their souls for whatever they want. And it turns out that Henry has also made a deal with this guy, and he wants to be loved. So now everyone loves him unconditionally. You'd think that would be a great thing, but you find out with both of these curses, you find out that even though they sound great, you find out that the cons for these curses are way worse than anything that could be good about them, which is really interesting to me. The devil dude, he goes when people's time's up, he goes and takes their souls. So it's kind of like a grim reaper because he's there to meet them and take them away when it's time for them to die. And it implies that a lot of artists have sold their souls, which I thought was an interesting idea. Also, let's see. Oh, the other interesting thing that happens is that she hates the devil dude, and she's made up an image of him in her head of her perfect dude. And so he appears to her as her perfect dude, which can be real disconcerting for her. And he comes and he says, anytime you want to give up, and give your soul to me, then you can be done. So things get really, really hard for her. And he keeps coming and bothering her and saying, are you done yet? Are you done yet? And she's like, no. And she will not give in to him. But then at some point, because this is going to happen, at some point she doesn't necessarily give in to him. He kind of gives in to her and just decides to love her. So then they have an affair, basically, for like 30 years or so. In the timeline of 300 years, that seems like this little teeny tiny blip. But so it's one of those things where she kind of falls for bad guy in the middle of all the craziness. And he reminds me so much of the dude in My Demon, which is a K-drama. A lot of the stuff in this book reminded me of that drama. I don't know if any of you watch K-dramas, but you should go look it up. I think it's on Netflix, called My Demon. If you enjoyed this book, I saw a lot of connections and correlations between the two of them. He makes deals with people too in their dire, desperate needs, and then when the time's up, he goes and harvests their souls. Exactly the same thing. I thought that was interesting to connect those two. My Demon, the K-drama, is so good. Oh my goodness. So anyway, this one is really, really good too. And I liked that they kind of give in to each other there at the end. But then she wants to try and make a deal again with him to save Henry's life. That's the dude who can remember her. And he only made a deal that would last 1 year. So once his year is up, he is done. And so the whole thing at the end there gets real crazy because she wants to figure out how she can save him and make it so that he can live longer. And the great thing would be is if they can live together. That's not exactly how it goes down. I feel weird saying the whole ending, but I said it was a spoiler. So if you're watching, hopefully you know that she ends up sacrificing herself for him. And she gives in to the devil dude and basically decides to live with him and be with him forever so that Henry can live. Which is such a great story. Oh, yeah. The whole idea of somebody who's immortal for that long, also they get to go through lots of history. So I loved seeing history kind of through her eyes, which is kind of a different perspective. She sees all the artistic-y things. And I don't know, it just makes you wonder, what would you do with yourself if you lived that long? But what would you do with yourself, especially if nobody remembered you and you couldn't write or create anything of your own? She learns how to be a muse to artists so that they are inspired by her, and so they create artwork around her. And so she is actually made this huge mark on the world, which I absolutely loved that premise so much. So good. I loved it. It was great. All the buzz that everybody's been saying about it, pretty much true and fulfilled everything that I thought it would be. And I just thought it was awesome. But except I don't have anything else to say, except I just wanted to tell you, if you haven't read it, then go read it. See if you love this author as much as I do. And if you have read it, then let me know what you thought. And if you loved it as much as I did, and if you didn't love it, why? Why did you not love it? I would like to know. Let me know in comments. And stay tuned for, let's see what's coming up. I've been filming a lot of videos lately, so stay tuned for anything that looks interesting. I'm trying to get the mojo back here, so hopefully it's happening. Until next time, happy reading. Bye!